running essentially flat. So let's take it one step further and let's add the predicted MACD here. The predicted MACD is still below this zero line. We've crossed the trigger to the upside. However, we can see that the trigger is now starting to move. It's moving, the indicator is moving back towards the trigger and potentially getting ready to cross over to the downside yet again. We can see very repetitive here where the same thing happened almost the exact same time last month. We got this strength in the euro only to hit this area, the predicted MACD from Vantage Point. I'm just going to take this off for a minute so everybody can see the extremely powerful correlation between these three indicators. We have the crossover that took place here. The leading indicator was the 3-day crossing over the 8-day and the 18-day. This was followed by the predicted TSI from Vantage Point that was running flat and then broke lower. It could not cross over this trigger. Then we have the predicted MACD crossing over the trigger and moving lower. We can see then that the Euro-US moved from the 137 area all the way down to just above the 132. So that was a great indicator using these, trade using these indicators stacked on top of each other. Now again, you can see how clean my chart is. My chart is virtually uncluttered here. Now I've seen some pretty wild setups where just about every indicator Vantage Point has is put on this screen. That's certainly not a good way to start your trading. When you're starting your trading, keep your charts clean, keep everything nice and tight so you know what's happening here, and don't clutter it up so bad that you're almost looking for a signal that may not actually be there. So again, this is a very clean, clear setup. The triple EMA making this move, predicted TSI, and the predicted MACD. So for today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to keep an eye on this euro, but my opinion is that we continue on this to sell into strength despite what's happening on some of these other currencies. Now, we've had a high correlation in the past for the last couple of years, actually, that when one US-based currency pair gains strength, or gets weak, they all weaken. Well, that's not actually happening here. The Australia dollar, the New Zealand dollar, and the Canadian dollar are considerably strong. The pound dollar is gaining strength, but it's still not as strong as what it could be. The yen is weakening, the dollar is weakening, but the euro remains weak. So again, this correlation to these other currency pairs is starting to break down. We're seeing absolute reluctance for buyers to step into the euro. So for today, we're going to be watching this area very closely in between 135.26 and 135.50. And for now, we're going to use that as an opportunity to set shorts. And in all reality, our stop should be over this 137 level. Now, looking at the Vantage Point software, again, we've got these candlesticks stacking up here where it's had a considerable amount of difficulty getting past this 137 area. So we don't want to get caught up in this intraday market volatility, and we want to make sure that we give ourselves enough room to allow this trade to progress. Now, another pair I want to touch base on was again from last week's webinar, from the March 13th, or excuse me, the April 13th live webinar. We were buying the pound dollar. Now, the pound dollar, this was a very, very good trade, an excellent trade. We were buying it, off that 153.70 area, 153.70, 153.70, 153.30, I believe is the area we were buying at. The market then, over the course of last week, proceeded to move all the way towards the 155 area. So the question is, what's happening now with with the pound dollar? Well, what we want to point out here is that when we got this crossover from Vantage Point, using the triple EMA crossover, the 3-day crossing over the 8 and the 18-day, we then had three significant areas of retracement here where the market tried to push below Vantage Point's 18-day predicted moving average, only to subsequently move considerably higher. Now, a lot of this is related to, some of this, I should say, is related to the issues at Goldman, but the reality is, much like the S&P 500, the Goldman thing, guys, it's just nothing but market noise. And the reality is it'll pass, and when it does, the primary trend will then continue in the direction that it's been going. So we don't want to get caught up in this. If it was anything significant, which really, in my opinion, the Goldman thing is not, I'm sure that there'll be another incident following that and another one following that. So we'll have some this is what create volatility, but it's not, the main thing here, using the intermarket technical analysis, we're saying that the price is built in. Price is built in, and whatever comes at us, comes at us. We can't determine certain fundamentals that happen in the market, but we can analyze it on this basis. Looking at this, the market clearly tried to get through there, and it couldn't. Now, again, we're seeing the pound dollar gaining strength again. Right now, I'm just going to pull this up so everybody can see this. We're now sitting at 153.57 on the pound. 152.85 was the low today. At 152.85, we can see that the Vantage Point 18-day predicted moving average is sitting at 152.98. Again, this is certainly not a coincidence. The market pulled back to that area, hit that area, and then shot up over 100 pips. Now, we can see here, looking at the pound dollar, the high today is 154.35. So using the 18-day predicted moving average to get into your buy positions, you would have picked up about 140 pips on that trade today, knowing that we're going to stick with the primary trend. Now, looking at pound dollar going forward, let's take a little deeper look at it, because we're getting close to a pullback area today where we can actually buy this thing again. Now, this is the interesting thing with the Vantage Point software. On numerous days, over a 24 or I should say over a 14, 18-hour period, I'll often take the same trade twice in the same day, and it's kind of somewhat comical how this market repeats itself. So it makes its move higher, we take our profit, it comes back, we cash out, we re-enter the exact same trade. So looking at the short-term crossover here, we can see the short-term crossover from Vantage Point is to the downside. That's very, very similar to the US dollar index. But again, let's look at the medium and the long-term crossover. Medium and the long-term crossover are still telling us that this thing is going higher. So the medium is, so is the long-term, the short-term is the downside. So in short, we got that move to the downside. When it moved lower, we then in turn use that to get into a buy position. So right now, if we're looking at pound dollar right now, we can see that the US dollar is it's volatile in there this morning. There's no question about it. But there is a very, very clear pattern. So at 153.50, does this represent a buy opportunity on the pound dollar? Well, in my opinion, yes, it does. So what we're going to do is, just for fun, we're going to enter into this position at the, I'm just going to pick a random area because I know where I want to be. So we've entered into this buy position. It's a $50,000 trade, $5 a pip. We're going to put a stop on this trade. So where should a stop be on this trade? Well, a stop on this particular trade should be out of this area where it's not going to get caught in the broker radar. Now, again, I'm going to put this at about the 152.17 area. The stop is going to go in. Potentially next month or the next webinar, we'll look at this trade and it'll still be on. And who knows, it could be up hundreds of pips. It's hard to say. But the thing is, we have a clear plan. So essentially, guys, within minutes of taking that trade, the trade is instantly turned profitable. The spread is paid. I'm up 2 pips. We're $5 a pip. Again, I've got my stop in place here. Now, what do I want to look at for a limit here? Well, let's pull the Vantage Point software back up. We can see here that we've got some resistance in this 155 area here, these candlesticks from Vantage Point. But again, the medium and the long-term indicators from Vantage Point are very clear.